Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel. Today I will be talking about how to write a code to create a table which is by country and site. So here is the SAS program which I have already written for you. I will be explaining as we go in. So the first step is that we delete all the existing datasets which are in the work library, and we can achieve that by the use of proc dataset statement. In this, we will call the lib equals to work and no list and kill options to remove all the existing datasets in the work library. Next is we are assigning the lib name statements to the library where I'm having my Adam dataset. So right now that can be achieved is by the lib name, then the name which I want to give that to that lib library, which is the Adam I have given, and the path of that location where all the Adam datasets are being placed. Since in this program, we are going to display the country with the full text of the country and not the ISO format, which is the three-letter format it is in the data set. So I have used the proc format to convert the three-letter country code to the abbreviated value of that country. For example, the ARG, which is the three-letter ISO code for Argentina, will be converted to Argentina when I apply the country F format to that variable. So since in my study, in my dummy data, which I will be using in this example, there is only 6 countries, which are these 6 countries. So I have only mentioned these 6 countries code in my proc format statement and their respective abbreviated value. In case if you're in your study, there are many more countries, you can mention all those countries value, the abbreviated three digit value in the values side and have the long text of the country in front of it in this format. Now, while reading the Adam dataset, I will be reading the ADSL dataset because I will need only 3 information. That is the treatment information, the country, and the site information. All this information can be achieved using only the ADSL dataset. So I do not need to read any other dataset for this program. Since this data, for this table, I'm creating this table for the uh, records which are having the safety analysis flag as Y for the safety population set, in other words. So I have put a filter condition that when I'm reading the ADSL dataset, I only read the records which are having the safety population flag as Y. And I'm keeping only the variables which I will need for this table. That is the U subject ID, safety flag, treatment information, and the country and site. The next step is to count the N value, which is the frequency value. So we can achieve this using the proc frequency procedure. Now here you can see that instead of writing the proc frequency procedure multiple times for all the different frequency I want to count, I have created a macro of that code. For example, now if you see, when I want to count the number of subjects in each treatment in this study, I can pass in the table statement, I can pass just the treatment variable and I will get the value of all the number of subjects in each treatment group. So in the proc frequency statement, when I'm applying the proc frequency on ADSL dataset, which I've just created, I will be using the table statement only on the treatment variable, which is the TRT01AN variable. And I'm creating an output dataset by the name of big N, because in this case, what I'm trying to calculate is the number of subjects present in each treatment arm. So when I will run this code, it will give me the values of capital N for each treatment. Let's run till this point. So let's see the log first. So when we have run the proc dataset library equals work kill statement, it has deleted all the existing datasets in the work library. Then using the libname statement, libref Adam was created with the physical path given in the statement. And similarly, when using the proc format code, country F format is being created. Now, when we have read the ADSL dataset, we can see that in this dataset, there are 508 observations which are having the safety flag as well. So all those 508 observations are being read in the ADSL dataset. The next step is the step where we are calculating the frequency for the first scenario, which is the counting the number of subjects in each treatment group here. So when we have passed this macro, that is the tables variable, which is the TRT01AN, and the out data set as the big N, a big N data set was created, which is having the observation, 4 observation and 3 variables. We will be checking which are these observations and variables in a few minutes now. So this was the log which we have, which was generated for the existing code. Now, this was the ADSL. Let's see the big N. Here in big N, you can see there are 4 values of the treatment variables, and their respective count is getting generated here. This count is the capital N value here. That is the number of subjects for each present in each treatment. So since this is a numeric value or given to the different treatment in the study, I will explain this further. The TRT01AN, which is equals to 0, is the value which is given for placebo treatment. The 54 and 81 are the two numeric values given for the treatment with high and low dose, and 99 is the value given for the total treatment arm. So coming on the frequency count which we want to display in our table now. So as I mentioned, that this is the program where we have to create the table by country and by site. So the first frequency which we want to know is that what is the number of subjects in each treatment arm by country. So in that scenario, since we want the number of subjects in each treatment arm and country, in the table statement, we will pass two variables separated by an asterisk sign, which is the TRT01AN, which is for the treatment, and the country. So when we pass this value and call this macro, a frequency 1, which is our out data set we have given in the macro variable, will be generated. And seeing the log, if you see here again, we have read all the 508 observation from ADSL dataset, and the frequency 1 is having 24 observation and 4 variables. Let's see what it is. So here you can see that for each treatment arm, that is 0, 54, and 81, and 99 as well, and for each country, as I mentioned that in this data set, we are having only 6 countries. So for all these 6 countries, I am getting what is the count of subjects, that is the number of subjects being enrolled from this particular countries. Okay, so if I try to explain the first observation, it states that in the treatment arm 0, which is placebo, under the country ARG, which was Argentina, we have 14 subjects. And similarly for Canada, it is 20, France 14, and so on. And similarly for other treatment also. Now this is only for country, but we want for site as well, because we know that for each country there can be multiple sites. So if I want to know that in case of treatment arm 0, which is placebo, under the Argentina country, how many sites are there, and for each site, how many subjects were enrolled in the safety population. Then to achieve that information, what I have to do is I will have to pass another variable, which is the site ID, along with my treatment and the country in my table statement. And when I'm doing this, I'm creating another data set, which is the frequency 2 data sets. So let's run this again. And if I see the log, here you can again see that all the 508 observations are read, and we now have 65 observations with 5 variables. So here, if you see now, along with the treatment and the country, I'm also having the site ID variable. And if you notice here that under the Argentina, there were only 2 sites in the data, and for each site, the count is being displayed in the count variable. So here, if you notice that in Argentina for site 710, there are 11 subjects, and for 713, there are 3 subjects. If you notice now again, in case of Argentina, we were having only 14 subjects for treatment placebo. Now, if you see that all these 14 subjects are how they are distributed, that out of these 14, 11 are distributed in the site 710 and 3 are in 713. Similarly, we have for the other sites for each country and treatment. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to club all these 3 data set which we have just created and create a final data set have in the proper format to display. So now what we are doing is we are setting all these 3 data set, which is the big N, frequency 1 and frequency 2. And I'm creating a column by the name of label. And what this variable will do is that this is the first column in my output where I will display the country as well as site. Here, if you notice, if right now, let me run the frequency 1, 2, and big N together to show what it is. See, now here I have all the countries' information and their count, but I do not have the site IDs. Similarly, I have here the count for site ID, but I do not have the count for countries. So if I want to have one row for country count and one another rows for all the site counts, I want to have merge, I want to set these 2 data set, and for the rows where the count is given for site ID, I want to have a column which will display only the site ID and not the country, but it should be under the respective country. What I'm trying to say is, let me run this program first, then I will show what it is and explain. So now in this case, if you see the label column here, let's first sort also. It will be easy to understand by sorting. See here, now what I want to achieve was this case. If you see here that for considering the first treatment, which is the placebo, the first information which I want to display was the analysis set, which is my safety set subject count, which is 86. That is the capital N value. Now, under this, I want to say that for Argentina country, what was the count? That was 14. But in Argentina, the information of site, there are 2 sites in Argentina. So I will display under Argentina those 2 sites. If you notice, this site information is intended to some little intended to the right side to show that these 2 sites come under the Argentina country. And what was the number of subjects in these 2 sites is coming in the count column here. So to convert this country and site column in this format, I have to create a label column. And to achieve that, what I am doing is that when I'm merging all these 3 data set, if you notice, when I merge these 3, the first row, which is coming from the big N value, where I do not have a country variable, neither the site ID variable, these 2 values will always be null, but we will have a count value. And Using this information, I can put a filter condition that when site ID and country both are null, then I can give the label as analysis set safety. If you notice here, this is for treatment 0. The similar way it will be populated for the high dose and the low dose as well. See here. So it is in for the records which I want to have for the analysis dataset, I can create a label column in this format, since I know that the site ID and country for this record will always be null. But in case when I want to display the country, but not the site. Say here, the second observation. Here I want to display only the country information. So now if you notice again, since this record is coming from the frequency 1 dataset, which was the count of the countries in for each treatment. In that dataset, I do not have the site ID column. So when I'm setting the frequency 1, the site ID column will have the value of missing, but we will have the value of country. So here I'm using this logic that when the site ID is missing, but the country is not missing, in that scenario, I will be populating from country variable. But as I mentioned earlier, that I want to display the complete country information. I do not want to display the 3-digit ISO abbreviated country value in this label. So I'm using the country F format, which I have created earlier, and using the put statement. And you can notice here that the Argentina, Canada, France, and so on, whatever country is there, it is getting converted to the correct country name, the complete country name in the label column. And the third remaining logic is that when the country and both site ID are present, then I want to populate the label with site ID. So since I have already used the two ways in the data will come, that is either both the site ID and country is missing. The second one is site ID is missing, but the country is not missing. So the remaining one will be when both are not missing. So either I can I can mention in the similar way that if site ID and country is not missing, or I can use the else statement. In this way, it will work. Another thing to notice here is that since I want to indent the value of site ID to show that this is the subcategory of the country, that these are the sites which are coming inside this country. I have intended this value to indent these values. What I am doing is I am concatenating 3 or 4, whichever is convenient to you, or what the required mock shell says. We can add that many values, and by achieving this, we can have the indented values of site ID here. Another thing which I have done was I have created an order variable. Why I have done this? Because as when I want to sort it into the proper format, that is that I want the analysis set record, the analysis set safety record, as the first record, then the country record, and then the site record. I do not want all the countries displayed first, then all the sites displayed first. To achieve the correct order of the records, I have created an ORD variable. So how I have achieved this is this way, that again, since I want to display the analysis set values as the first observation, I have given the ORD value as 1. So again, the logic remains same, that how I will identify which is the record which is having the analysis set record count, that is the country and site ID is missing. So here I am giving again putting the filter that site ID and country is missing. In that scenario, my ORD value will be 1, but for the remaining scenario, I want the ORD to be 2. I do not want to segregate based on the country and site as we have done for the label for ORD. Why? Because when we have the information of ORD as 1 for the first records, remaining we can sort using the country and site ID variables. How? You can see in the next step that I want to sort the data set using the TRT, country and site ID. And when I'm sorting this data set, this is the way which it will be. Let's see how, first, if I do not sort the data set, how it will come. Right now, this is the unsorted data set. So you can see that the analysis dataset statement is coming once first because we have set the big N value first. If you notice, when the big N dataset was the first one which we have used, so whatever values there was in big N, those all records will be read first. Then we have read this frequency one dataset. So all the records which are having the value of country and we do not have the value of site ID, so all those records will be counted second. And you can see here that all the site IDs are missing and all the countries are read first. Then the third one, which is the country and site. So as we have seen earlier, what we want to do is we want to sort it by treatment, that first all the records related to a treatment placebo should come. Then inside that, the first one should be the analysis set. Then the second one will be the country and their respective site. So to achieve this, we can sort this data set, which is the frequency data set. And when we do this, it will be like this. Here you can see that all the records are first sorted by the treatment, then by the country, and then by the site ID. Okay, so this is the correct format which we want to display. The only difference now is, till now, what we have done is we have got the count values. So now we want to generate the n percentage values as well. We do not want to display only the n value, but we want to display the n percentage value as well. So how we will do that? So to achieve that, we need the big N value, because the percentage value is calculated as small n divided by the capital N, which is the big N, into 100. So as we have seen earlier, the big N dataset is having the count of the subjects which are these in the safety population set for each treatment. So when we merge the big N with the frequency, let's see first the big N dataset. What is the big N dataset again? So here if you see, big N is having the TRT values, which is the treatment values and their respective count. And if we see the frequency dataset again, in this also we have the treatment values, the count values, and the label values. So what we want to do is we want to create another variable where this count, which is the count which is for the country in the respective treatment, that is our small n value, and the value which is in the big N, that is the capital N, we want to divide the small n by big N and multiply by 100 to get the percentage value. So how we will get that? We need to merge the big N value with the frequency dataset. As we have noticed that big N value is also having a column count. So to avoid overwriting the count variable which is present in frequency by the count variable which is present in big N, I am renaming the count variable in big N to big N to distinguish that, okay, this count is the big N value. So while merging these two datasets, I have renamed the count of big N dataset as big N, and I'm merging these two datasets by TRT variable because we do not have any other common variables between these two datasets. Now the next step is I'm creating another var column, which is a character column, and giving the length of 20. What this var variable will be, it will be having the information of n and in brackets and percentage value. So again, what I'm doing here is, for the record where the value which I am displaying is the analysis set, the safety count value, I do not want to convert this into percentage value. So in that scenario, I have put a filter condition that when ORD is equals to 1, I do not want to convert it into percentage, but I only want to, since this is a character variable, I will convert the count variable, which is a numeric variable, to a character format by using the put function and stripping the values to avoid any leading and trailing spaces. Coming on to the other values which are not equals to 1, which is equals to 2, in other words, I want to display the value as n and in brackets and percentage. So this part where I'm converting the count, small n count value to the character format, and then concatenating inside the brackets, I am counting the n percentage. And how I'm doing is, this count is my small n value, this is my big N value. So I'm dividing the small n by big N and multiply by 100. This will give me the percentage. But I do not want to display multiple decimal values in my out data set or the final table format, but I just want to display only one digit decimal values. So I'm rounding about that derived percentage value using the function round and giving the option of 0.1, which means that it should give only one decimal point. So till this, what I have achieved is I have created a percentage value and I have rounded it to one decimal value point. Now, since this is a numeric value, I again want to convert it into character format. So I'm using a put function, using a best dot parameter, and then again stripping to avoid any leading trailing spaces and closing the parenthesis by concatenating it. So if you run this, let's see how it will be. So you can see here that when the label is analysis set safety population, that which is the ORD1, I do not want to convert into numeric to the character format or to the percentage value. I have kept it as 86, which was the 86 similar to the count variable. But for the remaining remaining records, I have displayed the small n, which is same as the small n count. And inside the brackets, I'm giving the percentage value, which will be the small n divided by the big N into 100. And big N for this treatment is the 86, which is the placebo. And similarly, if you noticed in the next treatment, which is the high dose value, this value was 84, and similarly the percentage is being calculated for each and every row. So in this data set, I'm again sorting it by the ORD country site and treatment value. Why? Because this is in the narrow view, but narrow view means this is in the, all these treatment values are in the row observation, but to display it in the column values in the table, I want to transpose this treatment to the column format. So to achieve this, I have applied the transpose function. But before applying the transpose, I have to make sure that all the all the records for one treatment are clubbed together, are in one group, and then for the second treatment and the third treatment. So to achieve this, I have given the proc sort statement, and then after that I've applied the proc transpose. So let's see what this proc transpose is. In case of proc transpose, I am reading the data set which I have just created, which was the percentage data set, and I am creating an output data set by the name of percentage underscore t, which means that this is the transpose of the percentage data set. I'm again using a prefix of TRT. What this prefix will do is that the variable which will be giving in my ID statement, it will provide a prefix to that value. So like in our case, I'm giving the ID variable as TRT01AN. And since we have seen this variable is having the value of 0, 54, 84, and 99, what this TRT variable, this prefix will do is that when converting the TRT treatment variable into column, it will generate a column by the name of TRT0, TRT54, and TRT84, so on. Again, by the by statement. In the by statement, I am keeping the ORD country, site ID, and label. That means that when this PRC percentage data set will be transposed, these columns which I am giving in the by statement will still remain in the record format. Like it will not get transposed. The only variable which will be transposed will be the treatment variables, and the value for treatment will be given in the var statement. That okay, when I'm creating the treatment variables, which are the TRT 0, 54, and 84, what value these treatment variable will have for each records of ORD, country, site ID, and label, which is the var value. So let's run this and see what it will show. So now you can see my var variable is being transposed for each treatment, and the values of var in each treatment. And similarly for the country and site, these are getting transposed. Earlier, we were having 93 records and 9 column in my percentage data set. And after transposing, we can see that this record has been reduced to 24, and still we are having the 9 columns. But if we can see, this is the transposed value, right? Another thing, if you notice, is for the scenario where for any particular country and site combination, there was no subject present for any treatment, uh, that row or that cell of the data set is having a blank value, that is missing value. So another step which we want to do is that when this scenario is there, that there is a missing value for any of the treatment column, I want to place a 0 in instead of having a blank value. So to achieve it, in the next step, you can see that I'm mentioning that wherever the respective treatment variables are blank, I want to display it as 0. So if you run this, now you can see for the variables it was missing, now we have the value of 0. Another thing we have while displaying, now this is the final data set which is in the correct format in which we want to display is there, but there is one or two other cosmetic changes which we might need to do. What are these are like, if we display the values of this data set as it is in the table, it will be a little difficult to read. What we want to do is we want to introduce a line break between each country, or the um, first record, which is the analysis, then a break, then the first country information, then a break, then another country information, and so on. So if we want to introduce a line break, how we can do is we will have to generate another variable, and here we are generating by the name of PG. So how we can achieve that? The logic is very easy, that since as I mentioned that after each country we want to generate a blank line. So we can say either after each country or before each country if we want to generate. So since we do have a first record, which is the analysis set safety record, and we want to generate another line break before we display the country, it will be better if we use that. We want to generate a blank line before every start of the new country. So what we will do is we will sort this data set which we have just created, which is the fin data set, by ORD country and site. Why we are doing? Because this is the correct format for the format. By format means the correct sorting order, which is the by first is the ORD1 record, then the inside the country and inside site ID. So that by this way, when we are sorting and when we set this fin data set, we will use the by statement to sort the set data set again by this same sorting order. Why? Because we want to use the functionality of first dot last dot. Okay, so why we have to use it? Because as we discussed, we want to generate a blank line before the first occurrence of a new country. Okay, so how to achieve it is that while setting the data set, uh, we will mention the by statement again, and we are creating a new variable by the function of retain. What will retain will do is when we have assigned one value to this particular variable, it will retain this value till it is changed, and uh, it will retain this value for each record till it is changed at any step. So what we are doing it, we are assigning the PG value as 1 for the first record, that is when ORD is equals to 1, which is our first record here. I have assigned the PG as 1, and then I want to change this PG value to 2 and so on, but it should be done only when it is the first occurrence of a country, a new country. So I put a filter if clause that when if first dot country and ORD is not 1. Why? Because I do not want, here the country is also missing, but I do not want to change the value of PRG here. So I'm putting an extra filter condition that I do not want to rechange my PG value again when the ORD is 1, because I've already assigned the PG equals to 1 when ORD is equals to 1. I have put this filter condition that for each first occurrence of the country, which is first dot country, I want to increase the PG value by 1. Okay, so what will happen is, since we are using the retain function, where the initial stage is that when this compiler will read the first record, here I will be assigning the PG equals to 1. Okay, and when it will move to the second record here, okay, when the ORD is 2, but it is the first occurrence of the country, a new country, here, since we have already used a retain statement, so by default at this stage, the PG value is having a value of 1. But as we have assigned that PG value should be changed to PG plus 1, what it will do is that for this record, it will change the PG value to 1 plus 1, which is 2. And when it goes to the third record, since this is not the first occurrence of Argentina, it will not execute the PG plus 1 logic for PG, and it will retain the PG value as 2 for third and fourth record. And when it will move to the fifth record, which is again the first occurrence of a new country, it will increase the PG value from 1 and change it to 3. So let's see this data set. Please note that I've put a keep statement here. So I'm just keeping the variables which I will be later on displaying in my RTF file. So since I will be using the PG column for introducing a line space, and the label and the triarty variables are the ones which I want to display, I have kept only those uh, columns. So here you can see that PG was having a value of 1 for the first record, and for Argentina it changed to 2. For country it again changed to 3, which is incremented by 1, and France 4, and so on. You can see it has changed, right? So this is our final data set which we can use in our proc report to generate the data set, to generate the RTF. Now coming up to the part how to generate the RTF. For this, we will be using the ODS statement. Normally in any organization, this ODS statement is already being set using a macro. So most companies, what they do is that before they write the proc report, they call a macro which will define the ODS statements and the format in which they want to generate the RTF file. Okay, and then we will write the proc report statement, and then again close the ODS statement using a macro. But in case in any organization you are not using any macro for the ODS statement, you can write a simple ODS statement where you are mentioning the format of the output. Since I'm creating the RTF file, so I am mentioning that I want to create then RTF using the ODS, which is ODS RTF, then the file name. For file name, what we have to do is we have to provide the location of the we have to provide the path where this file will be placed, and it will be in front of it we will mention the file name .rtf. I'm just giving this file name as by country site because this is by country site table which I want to generate. So I have just given a layman label to this, but you can give whatever is the standard name for you to give here. And I want to generate it in the general formats. This format you can change as per your requirement in which you want to generate. Again, I'm using an ODS escape character, which is the blank. Why I'm using it? Because if you remember, I have already used this blank values to give the indentation to the site. So I am using this that when displaying any values from the fin2 data set, if it encounters the blank space, it will not execute any trimming of the leading or trailing spaces, but it will display as it is. An extra caution to do this is that when I'm reading this particular variable, which is my label, because in the label I am having the indentation value, I'm using an SS equals to on style statement for this particular column as well. What it will do is that it will not change the value which is in the data set, and it will display the value as it is in the data set. Okay, so coming to the proc report here, since I have the my final data set which I want to display is as fin2, I'm mentioning that this part, the style report or the border values, if you want to create any border of the table as it is in the Excel format, you can avoid writing this step. But since I do not want to have any borders for in my table, I have used this style report statement where I'm removing any borders, and I want to use the full width of the page. So I have given that it should use the 100% width of the page. Then in the column statement, I will give the columns which I want to display in the correct order. I am using the PG label, then the TRT variables. I do not want to display any other columns, so I have kept only these 5 columns. Again, for PG, since this PG column was generated only to introduce a line break while defining these particular variables in the defined statement, I will mention that for PG, I do not want to print. So I will use a no print, but I will use a groups option. Why? Because I want to introduce a line space. Okay, now how to do that? I At the end of the define, I will be using a compute statement, compute block, where I want to introduce a line. So how it will be? Um, say, since we want to generate a blank line before the first occurrence of any country, I am using that inside compute before PG, introduce a blank line that is line, and in the brackets a blank space, and then we are ending the compute block by end count. Okay, so when you will write this compute block using the this PG variable as a grouping variable, you will be able to generate a blank line for each new value of PG. So coming to the remaining columns, which are label treat and the treatment, I am displaying these columns and I am giving a label to the header. This information which I'm mentioning into the inside the quotes after the display, it will be the header of these columns in the RTF file. And here I'm giving the information of header and justification, whether it should be left justified or center or in the right. So I want these values to be left, and a width, I have given a width of 80 to the label, because label will have longer text value as compared to the other three columns. And so I have given a width of 80 to the first label column, and remaining three treatment columns I have given a width of 40. You can change as per your requirement, and you can generate. Again, the next step is the title and footnotes. Uh, since we have to mention a title for each table, we can use the title statement here and provide a title which we want to display. So in this output, I want to give only one title, which is the title of the table, which is number of subjects by country and site for the safety set population. Okay, so I have given this title. And similarly for footnote, as of now, I do not had any particular footnotes to add, so I have just to explain that how a footnote can be generated. I have just mentioned that in for footnote, it will give the text value of generated by SAS, and I'm passing the uh, uh, already created the SAS defined macro, which is the sys date in the 9 dot format, date 9 format. So when the footnote will be generated, it will show the date this program was run, the RTF file was generated. And then at the end, I am just closing this ODS statement, which I have opened initially by ODS RTF close. So let's run this code and see what happens. Now, first of all, when I'm running this ODS statement and proc report, it will always generate a result of that output, which will be created in the result window as well. So you can see that the table title is being displayed, the value which we have. Then at the bottom, we have the footnote as well. And inside the table, we have the country and site, which was the label column. We have given then the three values of the treatment. So here, since we have displayed the values of the treatment, which is placebo, high dose and low dose, we are displaying it here as well. And inside it, another thing to notice is that for each new country, a new blank line is introduced between the values, right? So this is in the result window, but let's see the RTF file as well. And here you can see this RTF file is generated. We have the title, we have the country and the three treatment arms. We have introduced a blank line before each occurrence of the new country, or before each values of PG value. So since we have given a PG equals to 1 for the first record, and we have given that we want to introduce a blank line before the PG. So before the first record is being displayed, they have introduced a blank line here as well. Like that is a blank line between the header and the first row. And yeah, this is the one, and we have the footnote as well. We can increase, if we want to display multiple footnotes, we can do that with the help of footnote 2, 3, 4, and so on statements. And similarly for titles also, if we want to display more than one title, we can add title 2, title 3, and so on statements in the program. It will be done. So I hope this video was helpful to know how to create a number of subjects by country and site table. Let me know if you want to know about any particular program which you want to create. I will help you with that as well. Thanks for watching.